So before we start, I just want to make a little presentation about why we are going to do statistics during this course. And some of you, about I think half, already got used to doing statistics in my courses, but almost nobody likes statistics, including my former me. I used to hate statistics. I sucked at it at high school. Maybe Kate is going to teach us some things about mathematics this 4 days that makes it more fun, but I was really bad at it. Unfortunately, I was even worse at my languages, so I had to do some mathematics anyway. And I always hated statistics, but nevertheless, if you're doing NLP and you're having wonderful results and you're open about it and talking to other people, then now and then you run into a psychologist. Are there any psychologists here today? Before I start bad-mouthing psychologists? No? Oh, great 4 days. And then now and then you run into a psychologist who claims that what we are doing with NLP is impossible because he has some kind of statistical proof that what we do just can't be happening. And I will always find that very strange, because how can someone deny my personal experience by offering statistics? So I was really negative about statistics. On the other hand, I always try to keep up with my own trainings. That's one of the reasons why I'm very happy to have Kate here in Amsterdam to do teaching excellence, because I'm also participating as a participant in order to learn from Kate and upgrade my own skills in teaching other people. But besides training with Kate and with Richard Bentler and John Laval, I also do now and then a philosophy course in the university. Each semester I'm choosing a philosophy course, and last year I was trying to do Foucault. That's a French philosopher, postmodern philosopher, who is kind of interesting to me. But unlike my former self, where I was a very bad student and only read what I had to read, nowadays I completely read into it. So I read all kinds of books before the courses even started. And I did, at least I tried to do this with Foucault. I bought a couple of his books, his most interesting books. I tried to read it, but I hate it. It's a complete mess. I can't get through it. It reminds me of books of John Grinder. I also started with those books, but couldn't get past page 3.
Robert Dilts comes to mind.
Robert Dilts is the other guy who simply can't write books. So I dropped to Foucault, and then I checked what other course there was. And there was this course, Philosophy of Statistics. And I knew that that would be a very hard course to follow because of my hatred of mathematics. But I also knew that philosophers are very good at criticizing any subject. So if philosophy of statistics, I knew it, and if I would do that for half a year, that I would have lots of ammunition to counter any argument by a psychologist about statistical research. Because philosophers they don't agree on anything, but they're very good at showing what's wrong with other people's thinking. So I thought, okay, let's do this course, and then I'll have all the ammunition that I need in order to counter any statistical argument that what I'm doing can't be real or something. So I went out and went to do it, and philosophy always delivers. So again, I have lots of ammunition now to counter all kinds of statistical research. But there was something even better than that. I fell in love with statistics, which is kind of weird. But not with normal statistics, but with a special version of statistics. And this reminded me of something that is very closely related to neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and also relates to Kate's work, in the sense that NLP is a meta-discipline where you chart human excellence. And Kate has done a brilliant job of charting human excellence in teaching. But there was one area I found out where NLP has not done that much about finding out what is the best excellent behaviors of people. And that is in science. There's really no model of NLP on how to do science. So the relationship between science and NLP is stressed at best, I think. In the sense, in the 80s they did all kinds of weird research to prove NLP wrong. now I know what's wrong with the research, because they're all making statistical errors. But as it turned out, there was an alternative way of doing statistics called subjective Bayesianism, which criticized what psychologists were doing, showing what they were doing wrong, but also very closely related to how NLP was thinking. So I found out that if you want to do excellent science in a NLP fashion, that subjective Bayesianism is the way to go. First of all, of course, the term subjective, that already rings a bell for most NLP practitioners, hopefully, in the sense that NLP is always focusing on your subjective experience of reality. And this is also the case with this kind of statistics. All the numbers that we are asking for people, they are completely subjective. You can fill in whatever you want. You have complete freedom, according to Bruno De Finetti, the Italian professor who thought up subjective Bayesianism. So that also rings a bell with NLP. It has the same value at its core, namely freedom. And furthermore, it shows that you can update your knowledge about the world in a kind of feedback loop, where you take in new knowledge and then adjust your position according to the information that comes in, which is also very closely related to the idea how NLP thinks that we are learning. And hopefully Kate will tell us more about how people learn for the coming 4 days. Maybe, hopefully. But anyway, the good thing was that it was very closely related to NLP, but then completely scientific. It has hardcore mathematics inside of it, and it is really becoming popular. I don't know whether you know this, but there's a computer who won the quiz show Jeopardy! Jeopardy is an American quiz show where you get the answer and then you figure out what the question was. And they IBM built a computer, and it won from the 2 best human Jeopardy players by coming up with the question way faster than they did. And how did the computer do it? By using subjective Bayesianism. And so it's becoming very popular. In fact, I'm now writing a paper about it, and my professor at the university first he was very skeptical about it, and then he saw in the Stanford philosophical encyclopedia there was a line that said, well, subjective Bayesianism is the most important development in epistemology in the 20th century and the best promising research area for the 21st century. So now suddenly he has become very enthusiastic. So what we're going to do here today is start off with subjective Bayesianism. And who's actually a teacher here?
Yeah.
So we have 4 teachers.
What are the rest of you doing here then? Just joking.
So we're going to ask for the teachers if they want to participate, especially with this program, because we want to track your performance for the coming years. So I'll be emailing you each half year, each semester, how things went, and then we put all the information into the system, and we'll see where progress is being made. Because there are 3 reasons why I think that doing statistics within NLP is important. It's really weird, because we're probably the only place now, with Kate being forced by me, also a little bit of statistics. We now have 2 places where it's being done, worldwide, so this is quite unique. But there are 3 major reasons. The first of all is for the world at large. I think that it's important that we as an NLP community are able to communicate, engage the outside world, and actually show results that are presented not in the way the world wants it, because they want to do the wrong kind of statistics, but in a way that we can argue for, to show that, well, this is at least as scientific as the way you are handling things, if not better, because subjective Bayesianism doesn't run into all the philosophical problems the old evil statistics run into. So it's really about getting the message out of there, showing people who are skeptical what NLP can do. If we look at solving problems, change work, we now have statistics that show that 82 to 86% of the people who have had problem days for the last, or more than 800 problem days for the last 1,000 days, that they improve considerably when they start doing NLP, and also improve very rapidly. So that's very handy to start talking to insurance and the government and stuff like that. For the teachers who are here, it's very important that we are able to show to the schools, the organizations, the government, the ministries, how this kind of course improves people's teaching abilities. That's why we are going to track the teachers among you to see how you are doing in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. As long as you're willing to answer my emails. And I'll just put it into the system. And hopefully it shows great results. We don't know that yet. Could very well be. Then there's a second reason. The first reason was for the world at large. The second reason is just for this group. That as a trainer, it's always very hard to track how people are doing in trainings. And you, of course, you check with looking at people and feeling, and you ask them how did the exercises go, and you check if everybody's having fun. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Nevertheless, when one started to use these statistical things to see how exercises went, I also started to get addicted to doing this kind of statistical background on exercises. Because I can immediately see in the way people fill in their answers if anything is going up, all the things that are going well, and if someone is not doing well within an exercise, I can immediately see that and act on it and make sure that it improves. So for me as a trainer, it gives a lot of peace of mind, and just knowing that people do the exercises and that they do them well. And then finally, that's the most important thing, I think, that there's a need for a lot of attention for subjective Bayesianism. That is that your brain works according to subjective Bayesian mathematics. They just found this out, this new neuroscience research, is that the way the brain makes connections between brain cells follows subjective Bayesian rules. In the sense that if you look at a brain cell, it has a body, a bit smaller than my body. On one side it has a lot of input things, and it has a big stick on the outside and smaller output things. And this is only one of this is the most common brain cell. And what happens in a brain cell, if they're making a connection and sending through a signal, is that their molecules pass through the body, through the tentacles, towards another cell. And in order to make sure that some behaviors are very easy to do, they make sure that the way that molecule is traveling through the brain cell is that it's being done by a difference in currents. So there's a current going through, this very small current going through the brain cell. But the amount of current that is needed to help have the molecule travel through the brain cell, that is the amount how easy the behavior becomes. So behaviors that are very easy to do, they only require very minimal amount of currents for the molecule to travel through the cell, where behaviors that are very hard to do and people are inhibited to do them, then there's much higher current level needed for the molecule to travel through the brain cell. And what they found out is that those levels of current that are needed for a brain cell to make a connection, that they're dependent on what you're learning. So if you're learning new stuff, in the beginning you need more current to have the molecule travel through the brain cell. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes, the less current is needed. But that the level of current follows the exact formula of subjective Bayesianism. So we have 3 major reasons. It's good for the world, it's good for this group, and it's good for your brain to start thinking in probabilities rather than in truths.